Hello and welcome to week 5, piece 10 of the Wall of Stitches crochet along. And for this piece we're making the Tunisian Tower stitch. So this is quite an unusual stitch in that it combines a sort of form of Tunisian crochet with slip stitches and normal stitches. It's a very interesting stitch. It's definitely different and unique, and I actually found this quite a bit of fun to make. So for this piece, you're going to need to start with a foundation chain of 31. So to start the Tunisian Tower stitch, we're going to be making a row of slip stitches. So in the second chain from your book, you're going to make a slip stitch. So I'm just going to mark that so that this slip stitch is the first stitch of our row. And then you're going to slip stitch in every stitch across. The challenge with these is to keep them nice and loose, as we want to be able to work in them easily in the next row. So there's a lot of slip stitches in this stitch, so you're going to get plenty of practice on keeping that tension nice and loose. So just slip stitch in every stitch across, and then when you reach the end of the row, you'll have a single row of slip stitches. So then we're going to turn, chain 1, and using the back loop only, which is right around the back. So this is the top loops of each of your slip stitches. We're going right into this back one here, and then just slip stitch again. I'll just mark that one as the first stitch of our row. And then you're going to continue slip stitching in the back loop only in every stitch across. So a lot of slip stitches in this stitch. So you really do have to reach much further around the back than you usually would for working into slip stitches. So they just tend to sit really flat along the side you're making them. Okay, so the last stitch of the row is another slip stitch, back loop only. So we're going to look like this. So it's getting quite thick at this point. And then we turn and chain 1. So onto row 3, and again it's a row of slip stitches. So this is our final row of slip stitches before we start our Tunisian towers. And again, you want to work into the back loop only. Just mark that one. And working again in the back loop only, slip stitch in every stitch across. So here's the front 2 loops of our slip stitch, and this one here is the back. So these 3 rows are really quite dense and sit really close on top of each other. All these loops. But this beautiful look at the end is well worth it. And then last stitch, back loop only. Oh, there we go. 3 rows of slip stitches. So now we're going to turn and we're going to start our towers. So we're going to start by chaining 4. And now we're going to make a double treble. For a double treble, you yarn over 3 times, and we're going back into that first stitch. So that row, chain 4 I just did, does not count as a stitch. And you're just going to insert your hook into, no, wrong 2 loops. Those are the 2 loops. Top 2 loops of your slip stitches, but just sitting slightly on the back for this row. Yarn over and pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. So you've got this really big stitch, and that's a double treble. Okay, so now we're going to be working in a Tunisian style through these parts of our stitch, so the ones that come diagonally across. Okay, so yarn over, push your hook through that first ridge, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next space, pull up a loop, and push your hook through the third one, yarn over, pull up a loop. So you should have 5 loops on your hook. Next, insert your hook into the next stitch in the row, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then slip stitch through 1 loop only on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2 as well. And that creates this tower in the Tunisian way. And then we repeat that across the row. So into the next stitch, make a double treble. So you have to yarn over 3 times, pull through 2 loops until you get to the top, and you'll have these 3 loops going across the front, and that's the ones we're working into. Yarn over, insert your hook through the first one, pull up a loop, go to the next one, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and into the third one, insert your hook, pull up a loop. 5 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, those 2 loops are crossing towards the back, yarn over, slip stitch through the first loop only, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, up to the top again. So you get these columns, these towers being worked across the row, and we have the gaps in between that are completely clear. And you just repeat that all the way across the row. Into the next stitch, we make our double treble. And then yarn over, so you hook into the first loop, pull the loop. So you don't yarn over for any of the others, just the first one. And you've got 3 of them in each double treble. Then we make the slip stitch into the next stitch, and then bring our stitches back up the tower. There it is. So we'll make a couple more. I find this stitch far easier to make when working on the side. It just makes it easier to get into the right spaces. And slip stitch into the next stitch. And then we start yarning over and pulling through 2 loops all the way back to the top of the tower. So 2 loops left, 2 stitches left in the row, and we finish with the tower. Yarn over through the first loop, then hook into the next one, And the next, slip stitch into the last stitch of the row. Pull it out to make sure I've got the right loops. There we go. And slip stitch, and then yarn over, pull through 2, all the way back to the top of the tower. Those are your tower stitches. So quite an unusual stitch, but pretty interesting to make. Okay, so row 5. Turn, chain 1. Back loop only, make a slip stitch. And we're going to slip stitch in the back loop only every stitch across. Remember to keep those nice and loose so we can work on them in the next row. Remember that chain 4 at the beginning does not count as a stitch from the previous row. We have those row 5. To complete your Tunisian Tower piece, you're going to be repeating rows 5 to 7. So you're going to do one more set of repeats until you have 11 rows in total. Once you finish row 11, you can cut off and weave in your ends, and then it's time to add your border. So for this piece, you're going to have 30 stitches across the top and down the bottom. So 1 single crochet in each stitch. Down the sides, you're going to make 4 single crochet into the sides of the row 4 repeat, and 1 single crochet into the repeats of rows 2 and 3. You're going to ignore the row 5. Okay, so you won't put any stitches into that. That's just because those slip stitches, they're not the height of a full row. So we have to ignore a row. So you do that into the sides of this piece, and that will give you 14 stitches down each side. And then of course you add that extra stitch in the corners for the turn. So if you need a reminder on how to add the border, then click the link that appears on the video or go to the link in the description to get a reminder of how that goes on. So once you finish your first round, you can go ahead and add the other 2 rounds as well. And then you can cut off and weave in your ends, and then you join this piece onto your floret piece using the flat braid stitch. So again, if you need a reminder how to do that, that link is in the description or the link that pops up on the video. So that completes week 5. So I shall see you next week for the next piece, but don't forget, if you have any questions, please do come to the Facebook group, Froggity Frogs Ribs and Stitch. You can ask all the questions you need, chat with your fellow crochet alongers, and of course show off your pieces as well. I'd love to see how you're getting on. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you next week for the next piece. Bye for now.